When we think of bodybuilding, what usually comes to mind are massive bodies, over 6 feet tall, with muscles the size of truck tires. But Franco Columbu broke that mold. He stood at just 5 feet 5 inches and weighed somewhere between 185 and 200 pounds, and still managed to stand toe-to-toe with the biggest legends in the sport. He might not have been the most massive guy on stage, but watching him in action made it clear. This was about more than just aesthetics. This was raw power. Franco wasn't just impressive because of his dense, muscular build. He was explosive, agile, and freakishly strong. His compact frame seemed tailor-made to handle insane amounts of weight, turning him into an absolute beast in both the gym and on stage. It felt like every inch of his body was engineered for performance, and his strength went way beyond bodybuilding. The guy crushed it in powerlifting with lifts that still make people scratch their heads. And he didn't stop there. He also dipped into Olympic lifting and was even an amateur boxing champ. Can you imagine a world-class athlete who conquered the ring and then went on to become Mr. Olympia? Yeah, Franco was that kind of rare beast, someone who seemed to be great at whatever he touched. His entire journey screams versatility and strength. That's why they called him the strongest man in Sardinia, his homeland. And that nickname wasn't just for show. The man was out there lifting cars, blowing up hot water bottles with his lungs, and taking on feats that even heavier athletes wouldn't dare try. While others got attention for how they looked, Franco made headlines for what he could do. His greatness was all about defying expectations. In a world where height and sheer size ruled the stage, he proved that real strength isn't about how big you look, it's about what you can do. He was like a tank, small, compact, and unstoppable. And the craziest part? Even though he was shorter than most of his rivals, he almost never felt smaller when it came to performance. Have you ever stopped to think what it's like to watch someone small go head-to-head with giants and win? That's what Franco did for years. He's living proof that size doesn't define your power. What matters is what you do with the body you've got. Franco Columbu's story starts humbly in the rugged hills of Sardinia, a region in Italy better known for sheep than for elite athletes. It was there, living a simple life as a shepherd, that he first built a deep connection with physical labor and endurance. Long before he'd ever stepped foot in a gym, Franco was already shaping his strength by carrying heavy loads, climbing steep hills, and working the land. But all that raw power needed direction. That's when boxing entered the picture. With his compact frame and natural aggression, Franco quickly made a name for himself in the ring. He trained hard and went on to become Italy's amateur boxing champion. Even without elite training resources, it was clear he had something rare, unshakable determination. Still, something was missing. Franco felt drawn to real weights, serious weights. That pull led him to powerlifting, a sport that would push his strength to the limit. And here's the thing, he didn't just try it, he owned it. His numbers started turning heads fast, and before long, he decided to go all in. In the early 1960s, he made a bold move, leaving Italy for Germany in search of better training conditions and competitive opportunities. And it paid off. With access to real sports infrastructure, Franco took off. He became the Italian, German, and European powerlifting champion. Just imagine it, a thick-accented immigrant, lifting ridiculous weights, earning respect wherever he competed. That was the birth of a legend. Franco wasn't just strong by local standards, he was world-class. At every competition, he made it clear he wasn't there to play around. His lifts rattled even the most seasoned lifters. And the wildest part? He did it all with a body most people thought was too small for professional powerlifting. Sardinia may have shaped a warrior, but it was Germany that gave him the stage to unleash his power on the world. And that chapter of his life proves something big. Strength doesn't just come from muscle. It comes from the guts to leave your comfort zone and chase something greater. It was in Germany that Franco Columbu's path crossed with another determined young guy, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Even though they were completely different in size, they had one major thing in common, a crazy hunger to win. And just like that, they clicked. What started as training partners quickly became a full-on brotherhood. They were roommates, best friends, and friendly rivals chasing the perfect physique. Training together pushed both of them to new heights. Arnold brought that stage presence and picture-perfect symmetry, while Franco countered with raw strength and thick, dense muscle. It was the perfect mix of beauty and brute power. Word about the duo spread fast, and it didn't take long for them to catch the eye of the biggest name in the industry at the time, Joe Weider. In 1969, Joe brought them both to the United States, the true heart of the bodybuilding world. For Franco, this was the turning point. He wasn't just a strong dude from Europe anymore. He was now a professional athlete in America, training with the best, competing on the biggest stages, and showing off his power to millions. From that moment on, the wins started rolling in. He took home titles like Mr. Universe, Mr. World, and, of course, the legendary Mr. Olympia. In 1976, he won the overall Mr. Olympia title, a historic feat for someone his size. But his biggest triumph came in 1981, when he won the Olympia again at 40 years old, after an injury many believed would end his career for good. That injury happened in 1977, during a World's Strongest Man event. People said he'd never walk again. But not only did he walked back onto the Olympia stage and won. That's not just strength. That's the kind of comeback that defies medicine, time, and every imaginable limit. Arnold played a huge role in that journey. They had each other's backs, not just in training, but in business, in motivation, and in life. Franco was even the best man at Arnold's wedding. Their legendary friendship helped take bodybuilding to a whole new level, onto movie screens, TV shows, and into the global spotlight. So what about you? Have you ever had someone who pulled you up, who pushed you to be better? Franco and Arnold show us that when two giants of spirit, not just size, team up, they can make history. Now, if you think training hard means hitting the gym for an hour 3 times a week, then you've clearly never heard of Franco Columbu's routine. For him, training was almost sacred. It was full throttle intensity, every single day, no excuses. He trained twice a day, 6 days a week, adding up to over 5 hours a day. The words easy day didn't exist in Franco's world, just sweat, discipline, and results. He believed that real progress came from consistency and brutal effort. His training was nearly military in structure. He split his days by muscle groups, back, chest, legs, shoulders, arms, abs, and hit each one with serious volume and technique. It wasn't uncommon for him to knock out over 20 sets for a single muscle group in one day. What made his philosophy even more unique was his obsession with the details. He didn't just stick to the basics. At one point, he even took ballet classes, yes, ballet, to improve his posing on stage. Sounds wild, right? But it shows how seriously Franco treated bodybuilding as both an art and a performance. He wanted to be the full package, strong, symmetrical, and graceful. There's an iconic moment in the documentary Pumping Iron where he and Arnold are in a ballet class. Laughing, sure, but fully committed. That kind of open mindset is what separates the good from the legendary. Franco understood that everything mattered, and if something could improve his performance, he was all in. That says a lot about his courage to step outside the norm. For him, it wasn't just about lifting weights. It was about building a body that was functional, durable, and ready for anything. And he got there through a training routine that bordered on insanity. Just picture it. 90 minutes of weight training in the morning, then another 3-hour session at night. 6 days a week. No wonder his body looked like it was carved out of stone. That insane routine didn't just sculpt a compact, rock-solid physique. It built an unshakable mindset. Franco believed pain was part of the process, and pushing past your limits was the only real path to greatness. And you? Are you willing to do what others won't to achieve what most never will? Drop a comment. What's the hardest workout you've ever done? If Franco Columbu's physique already stood out for being compact and crazy to find, his lifting numbers were absolutely nuts. We're talking about a guy under 200 pounds pulling off lifts that rivaled and often beat guys twice his size. Bench press, 525 pounds. Squat, 655 pounds. Deadlift, 750 pounds. That's right, all of that with a frame most people thought was too small for powerlifting. These numbers made Franco a true freak of proportional strength. While most athletes relied on sheer size to generate power, he looked like he packed dynamite in every muscle fiber. And even though some of these feats sparked debate due to the lack of official records, there are plenty of photos, eyewitness accounts, and testimonials backing up his rep as one of the strongest bodybuilders the world's ever seen. Lifts like that don't just happen. They're built with sweat, precision, and relentless dedication. One of the clearest examples of his raw power came during the 1977 World's Strongest Man event. Competing against guys who were way taller and heavier, Franco took on insane challenges like barrel lifts, tire throws, and even lifting actual cars. And despite the massive physical gap, he still scored high rankings in several events. And here's the kicker. Even if not all his numbers were caught on camera, Arnold Schwarzenegger himself, who knew Franco better than anyone, said he was stronger than him. In squats, for instance, Franco could bang out 10 reps with 500 pounds, 227 kilograms, while Arnold struggled to finish 6. When one of the greatest names in the sport admits someone else is stronger, that's not something you brush off. Franco's strength wasn't just limited to stages or gyms. The guy once burst hot water bottles using only his lungs. He's been filmed lifting real cars, not movie props, actual cars. These public feats of strength only confirmed what his numbers already screamed. Franco Columbu was a beast. And not just a beast in looks, a real one. The kind that makes the impossible look easy. But in 1977, the world witnessed a brutal moment that almost ended his career. During a World's Strongest Man event, Franco was running downhill with a refrigerator strapped to his back, a challenge that would break most heavyweights. In the middle of the run, he tripped. The impact was nasty. His leg twisted badly, and for a moment, that rock-solid body looked shattered. Footage of the accident spread fast, along with grim predictions. Doctors were sure he'd never walk properly again. Competing? Out of the question. How could someone with a severe leg injury return to the highest level of physical competition on the planet? It was the kind of injury that ended careers and crushed spirits. But Franco wasn't just anyone. Where others would have accepted their fate, he decided to rewrite the story. He went through a 6-hour surgery, months of recovery, and an exhausting rehab. And even while rebuilding his body, his mind never stopped training. He used to say that physical strength comes after mental strength. And maybe that's why he bounced back from something that looked irreversible. Step by step, he started walking again. Then came the training. And he didn't stop there. In 1981, just 4 years after the accident that could have ended everything, Franco returned to the Mr. Olympia stage. And he didn't just show up, he won. At 40 years old, he beat younger, taller, supposedly better prepared athletes. That one was more than just a title. It was a slap in the face to logic, medicine, and time itself. Franco became the oldest Mr. Olympia winner at that point, proving that age and injury don't define strength. He stepped on that stage with an incredible physique, but even more powerful than his body was his story of comeback. In that moment, he wasn't just an athlete. He became a symbol of resilience, focus, and fearless determination. And while all of this was happening, most bodybuilders around him were obsessing over super restrictive diets, jumping on every trend, or cutting macronutrients to extremes. But Franco? He chose a different path. He trusted a balanced diet, rooted in the Mediterranean tradition of his homeland. His goal was clear: eat to nourish, fuel, and support his body for the long haul. And honestly, that might have been one of his best-kept secrets. He favored natural carbs like potatoes and fruit, avoided refined sugar as much as possible, especially before training, and leaned on fresh, whole foods like grilled meats, steamed veggies, and homemade yogurt. No fad diets. He knew performance came from consistency, not deprivation. That's why his meals were simple but carefully designed to fuel a body constantly under stress. A typical breakfast for him would include fresh fruit, whole eggs, fresh juice, yogurt with granola, and some basic supplements. Lunch? A big salad, lots of veggies, and a solid protein source like fish or lamb. In the afternoon, cheese and fruit. Dinner was usually a repeat of lunch, and he'd close the day with a bit of yogurt. A no-nonsense, real food diet built on what actually matters. And the most surprising part? Franco didn't completely cut out life's pleasures. He still enjoyed things like pizza or a glass of wine. For him, balance was part of the secret. He believed that eating wisely also meant knowing when to relax. That mindset showed just how mature and ahead of his time he really was, especially in an era when extreme dieting ruled the game. His eating style made total sense for the body and routine he maintained. Long, intense workouts required steady energy, not sugar spikes or crash diets. He saw nutrition as an extension of training. Both demanded discipline, intelligence, and respect for the body. And if you take one look at Franco's physique, dense, defined, and functional, you'll see that the strategy paid off. Nowadays, a lot of athletes are ditching the extremes and going back to basics, rediscovering the power of simple, real food. Franco was doing that decades ago. He understood that feeding the body wasn't just about counting calories. It was about building strength from the inside out. Maybe that's why his muscles looked so alive, so solid, like they were ready for anything. When Franco Columbu stepped on stage, he wasn't the tallest guy there, but it only took a glance to understand why he stole the spotlight. At just 5 feet 5 inches and around 185 pounds, his physique was a masterclass in muscle density. It looked like every inch of his frame had been sculpted with surgical precision. No fluff, no weak spots. What he lacked in height, he made up for in presence. His measurements speak for themselves. 19-inch arms, 52-inch chest, 26-inch thighs, and 17-inch calves. Those numbers alone would put any athlete on the map. But in Franco's case, what stood out even more was the proportion. It was like the power of a 265-pound man had been compacted into a body under 200. Pure functional muscle, with an aesthetic that balanced raw strength and razor-sharp definition. But Franco's signature was his back, so wide and detailed that people started calling him the man with wings. When he turned around and hit a back pose, it looked like 2 slabs of titanium unfolding across the stage. The symmetry, thickness, and separation in his back muscles made him impossible to ignore, especially when standing next to much taller competitors. That contrast was part of his impact. In a sport dominated by 6-foot-plus bodybuilders, Franco proved size wasn't everything. He brought a different kind of aesthetic, denser, more primal. He didn't stretch across the stage, he commanded it. With every pose, he showed that true strength isn't about how long your limbs are. It's about the intensity with which they were built. His shoulder width, torso thickness, and limb proportions created an illusion that made him look bigger than he really was. Even the judges got thrown off. Most only realized how short he was after reading the stats, because on stage, he looked massive. It just goes to show how smart physique building can challenge even the most obvious perceptions. But beyond the numbers, Franco's physique was the result of decades of meticulous work, brutal training, and a mindset built to break limits. He didn't have the ideal genetics for the sport standards, but he still earned his place among the all-time greats. That says everything about who he was, not just as an athlete, but as a man. His partnership with Arnold Schwarzenegger went far beyond the gym. Their bond made its way to the big screen too. Franco appeared in several of Arnold's movies, like Conan the Barbarian, The Terminator, and The Running Man. But maybe his most iconic appearance was in Pumping Iron, the documentary that introduced the world to bodybuilding and immortalized him alongside the legends of the Golden Era. Even after retiring from competition, Franco didn't walk away from the world of health. He reinvented himself. He studied chiropractic care, got certified in nutrition, and started a new career helping others. That side of him is often overlooked. He wasn't just a strong athlete. He was smart, curious, and fully committed to growing in every aspect of life. That transition shows Franco's real legacy: longevity, adaptability, and discipline. He built a solid life both on and off the stage, which is rare in such a demanding sport. His influence went far beyond bodybuilding. He became a reference point in health, performance, and perseverance. and kept inspiring new generations until the very end. How many athletes can stay relevant for decades? How many fade from the spotlight, but still remain giants in silence? Franco did just that. With humility and wisdom, he showed that real strength goes way beyond muscle. It's about character, purpose, and living with integrity. Even with all the titles, records, and media appearances, what stands out the most about Franco is his consistency. He was the same guy who trained like a beast, ate like a farmer, and thought like a philosopher. His life was basically a living blueprint for how to live with both intensity and balance. Franco Columbu sadly passed away in 2019, but the mark he left on the world is more alive than ever. Every grueling workout, every weight lifted, every pose on stage, each one was a piece of a journey that's inspired millions. His story proves that true strength doesn't live in your muscles. It lives in the soul of someone who refuses to quit. He faced adversity, defied diagnoses, battled time, and conquered both internal and external wars. Franco was living proof that with discipline, intelligence, and passion, you can turn any obstacle into momentum. And more than that, he showed that it's possible to live with fire without losing your center. Among so many incredible athletes from the golden era, Franco stood alone. His physique was impressive, his strength was legendary, but it was his way of moving through life that made him unforgettable. He was the kind of person who inspired just by showing up without even saying a word, because his story spoke for him. Whether in the gym, on the big screen, or helping people in his chiropractic clinic, Franco was a giant, a true example of courage, resilience, and versatility. His name will forever be tied to the heart of real bodybuilding, the kind that's driven by purpose, not just looks. So if you're looking for inspiration to train harder, live with more focus, or simply become a better version of yourself, remember Franco. Because his legacy wasn't written with words, it was built with action, sweat, and comebacks. No doubt about it. He was a legend who transcended generations. If you enjoyed this tribute to the incredible strength of Franco Columbu, drop a massive like to support the video. That really helps the channel keep bringing top-tier content to everyone who loves real, old-school bodybuilding. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button and turn on the bell so you don't miss a single upload. And of course, tell me in the comments, which of Franco's feats blew your mind the most? Was it the car lift, the 525-pound bench press, or the epic comeback after that brutal injury? I'm really curious to hear from you. See you there. Big hug, train hard, and never forget, true strength starts in the mind. Catch you in the next one.